Good morning. I'm Taylor Combaluzia, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities. Our next presenter is Kevin Brewer, who's the president and CEO of CMC Metals Limited. CMC is focused on its projects in the emerging Rancheria Silver District in the Yukon and British Columbia, as well as its copper gold projects in Newfoundland. Kevin, you'll have 15 minutes, and then we'll have a 5-minute Q&A session afterwards. Viewers, please feel free to submit your questions throughout the presentation. Kevin, please take it away.
Thank you, Taylor, and thank you to everyone who's joining me today. The title of the presentation today is Pursuing High-Grade Silver, Lead, Zinc, CRD Deposits in the Rancheria Silver District. Bit of a mouthful, but we'll get through it and I'll explain to you what we're doing up there. Next slide, please. We will make some forward-looking statements today. So we've got projects, as Taylor said, in Eastern Canada, early stage copper silver projects. I'm from Newfoundland, know the area very well. These are being worked on as we speak. As I say, they're early, they're pipeline projects. We have high hopes for them in the future, but we're still wrapping our heads around those. Our focus is clearly in Western Canada with the silver, lead, zinc projects, and we have 5 projects there, 3 in British Columbia and 2 in Yukon. Next slide. So these are the names of the 5 projects. The projects that I'm really going to focus on today out of these 5 are Silver Hart, Amy, and Silver Knife. So why are we interested in this belt? Well, the Rancheria Silver District is a belt that's about 130 kilometers long by 50 kilometers wide. It's been known to have numerous high-grade silver, lead, zinc mineral occurrences throughout it. And one of those occurrences has resulted in a mine in the lower part of the district. It's a mine that's owned by Kerr Mining. It's called the Silvertip Deposit. It's one of the highest grade silver, lead, zinc underground mines in the world. It has a very attractive exploration model that we're adopting on all of our projects. Next slide. So here's the model. It's after McGaw, 1998. Most people will be familiar with it. What we're pursuing here is carbonate replacement deposits. These things emanate from an intrusion that goes into the overlying sediments. The fluids are hot. They hit the limestones overlying them. The fluids basically melt or replace those limestones and form nice tabular deposits, and they typically are very high temperature, so you need to be close to the intrusion for these things to form. So it's an interesting model, and it's one that we're proving out at Silver Hart. Next slide. So why also are we pursuing these? Because they tend to be large deposits, 10 to 150 million tons in size. They occur in clusters. The mineralization is very high grade, and they're typically low cost. And above all things, they can be company makers. And we feel that this can be a big company maker for CMC Metals. Next slide. So what did we do? Since 1985, really, the story of Silver Hart has been that people have drilled off the veins that are indicated in the red on this figure here, and the drill holes are in the yellow. And they've been drilling off the high-grade mineralized veins that were identified at surface. And these are valid targets in themselves, and we've got some really nice deposits. And we've had some beautiful intersections over the years. We've announced out programs in 2019 and 2021 on these, some of the best intersections of silver, lead, and zinc in the industry. But the thing to chase here is really the potential for the carbonate replacement deposits that was never really identified before. We flew these things in March of 2021. And what we found out in that survey was these huge conductors actually exist around the property. There's several of them. And we're going to focus on 2 of the largest ones, T1 and T4. And the veins potentially represent feeders to those systems. So you got mineralized feeders you got them. And we're going to talk about these conductors a little bit more now. Let's take the next slide. So here's T1 and T4, and we're going to take a slice through through both of those areas. The next slide. So the first slice, here's T1. It's a target that has a lateral extent of up to 1,100 meters. It's approximately 250 meters thick. It starts at surface and dips down gently, and it has a strike length of over 800 meters. This is a really big target, really interesting. You can see that the intrusion is on the underneath, and it's also to the sides. So you got all that lovely close proximity of heat source. You've got the perfect setting that you'd like to see. Next slide. Again, we'll take a slice through T4, and in this slide, in particular, you can see that the mineralized veins that have been drilled for over 35 years go right into this conductor. So they represent feeders into the T4 area. Next slide. So T4 is a slightly smaller target, but again, it has a good lateral extent, over 750 meters, strike of over 600 meters, and a thickness of 150 meters. Like T1, it starts at surface and dips gently down. And so we're planning to put some drill holes in, and you can see some of the planned drill holes there. And again, the intrusion in the blue is to the side, it's underneath. You got that heat, is exactly where you want to see it. Next slide. So to further validate these targets, we decided to do soil survey over them this past summer. And all of those purple, red, and orange dots represent high-grade silver in soils. And we see similar patterns in lead and zinc. So the nice part about this is that it starts to represent to us that the conductors, the sulfides in the conductors, are actually silver, lead, and zinc mineralization. And so we got a nice tie-in both geochemically right over the targets, exactly what we would like to see. And so the second piece is in place. Let's have another ticket puzzle. Next slide. So the other thing we see about this, the pink and the oranges are they're the intrusions, and the little squiggly black lines are the conductor. And what you want to see in silver, lead, and zinc, you don't want it to be overly conductive. So that big spike is not really an area of interest. You want to see moderate conductivity. You want to see low magnetics, because you know you're in the sediments. So the blues and the greens are low magnetics, and you want it to be right by the intrusions. So you got all of those ingredients as well. The final tick in the puzzle. Next slide. So when we were at the end of the season, unfortunately, we had the soils a bit too late to us to react to trenching and whatever. But we did start to run some drill roads down to prepare for this season coming up. And what we started uncovering was mineralization in sediments down at T1, because we don't have outcrops down there. So when the cats started building the drill roads, we started seeing that we did have mineralization on the edge of the intrusion. It was copper and probably a little bit of gold kicking around there. And that's exactly what you would see on the edge of the intrusion. So we're seeing the mineralization we want to see. We're seeing the geology. The next slide. So we got all the pieces. Let's put it together in summary. Geophysics, very large tabular shaped conductors, moderate conductivity, low magnetics. Geochemistry, coincident silver, lead, zinc values in the soils right over the targets. And finally, in the geology, the right setting near the contact with the intrusive, which is the heat source, and a mineralizing system that's evident from all of the years of drilling those mineralized veins at Silver Hart. Next slide, please. So most people would be happy with that, but we wanted to minimize risk in this company. And a couple of years ago, we had the opportunity to pick up some more projects in British Columbia at very reasonable cost, road accessible. Next slide. So we picked up two projects. One is right next door to Silvertip. It's called the Silver Knife Project, and the other at Amy. Now, both of those have been drilled projects. Both have very high-grade material in them, and we're dusting them off. They basically haven't seen exploration since the 1980s, and so these are very good targets. We've flown them as well. The geophysics is exactly the way we'd like to see it. The intrusive is there, the sediments are there, the targets are there. So the next slide. What we are seeing at surface is we're seeing a project like Amy with a ton of work being done. So we're doing data compilation on it right now. There's been a couple of adits in this development. And next slide, you see some mineralization at the surface here, all over the place. In the trenches, this is a sample from the adits. I mean, almost 21 ounces of silver, 7.5% lead, 7.5% zinc, sorry, 5% lead. Really nice material at Amy. A drilled off prospect, but non-43-101 with grades of about 790 grams ton silver equivalent. We're very excited about this project. We think the data compilation work is going to really help us pinpoint drill targets on that property for this year. And we want to drill these things in 2023. Next slide. So in summary, we have at least 3 high-grade CRD plays. We feel this distinguishes us from many junior silver explorers who basically have most have only 1 target. We got at least 3. We probably have more, and we got very excellent grades in all of these projects. Next slide. And the proof in the pudding on this, and Taylor did a great job of putting this together for us, is Silvertip is on the far left-hand side. You can see Silver Hart is the 3rd chart. The black and the blue represent lead and zinc. Zinc went at a 15-year high today. Price, lead has been accumulating nicely. Silver is over $25 this morning. And there's a lot of value generation to be had in the current market with the base metals. And we see that continuing in the near future. Next slide. So overall, our plans are this. In the short term, we plan to focus on resource expansion at Silver Hart. We're going to do up to a 5,000 meter drill program this summer on those CRD targets. We feel those are going to be game changers for this company and really add resources in the ground in the foreseeable future. We could continue to drill our veins, and we've got really good systems on our veins. We've been working on those as well. So we are working at looking at open pit development on those veins eventually. We haven't forgotten about our work, but we want to target bigger projects. At Amy and Silver Knife, we want them to take them to drill ready stage and attract in a joint venture partner to drill those projects in 2023. And that's going to significantly add value to our projects. And finally, we want to validate those Newfoundland properties. In the long term, next slide, our aim is to identify an economic deposit at Silver Hart, which will generate a standalone mine mill complex. And so we figure we got to be in the 50 million silver equivalent range to achieve that. At Amy and Silver Knife, we want to identify those resources, develop a mine plan, and then develop those resources and sell them at the gate to Kerr Mining to do it. It's an obvious move. We've got a good relationship with Kerr. We haven't talked about that relationship yet further in that regard, but we feel they'll need our resources in the long run. And so we're hopeful that that will come together. And finally, of course, in Newfoundland, we hope that we're going to have a nice, pleasant surprise there somewhere and identify a polymetallic deposit in Newfoundland. Next slide. So currently, we're in the midst of a financing. We have a bit of money left over from our fall raise, which we can attribute to the Amy and Silver Knife projects and ongoing work that we're doing in Newfoundland right now. So we're really, I call this raise my drill money for this season at Silver Hart. So it's a $2.1 million raise. We're at, the raise is going to be at 15 cents for non-flow through and 17 cents for non-flow through with a half warrant. The numbers kind of work that you can factor in a cost of about $350 a meter all in costs. So the 2.1 million will cover that and a little bit more and give us a bit of flexibility. So we're very comfortable with the raise of where we are. To advance Amy and Silverknife to drill ready stage is not going to be huge dollars. And so we're going to get that done as well. And with Newfoundland, we're proceeding. We're doing a ground mag survey, for example, right now on those projects. And we've been picking away at them with early stage exploration efforts, which we will continue to finance this year. Next slide. So here's the summary. We're in good shape right now. And we hope that people will consider participating in this current placement. We look forward to you coming aboard. I'm very active in the field myself. I do have skin in this game, and so you tend to find me 120 days a year. I'm out on my projects. I go to every single one of my projects. I supervise them directly, and we keep budgets tight, lean, and mean. And we work very hard to put all of our monies into the ground as much as possible. So we hope you will come aboard. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact Red Cloud or myself, and we'll get back to you extremely quickly. And we can give you individual, a more detailed presentation if you're interested. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you for the great presentation, Kevin. So just a reminder to all our viewers, we are open for questions. You can submit them using the event application. With that said, we do have a couple here already. So just to clarify on the financing you're doing now, that and plus the money that you already have remaining in the bank will cover the work, the drilling that's outlined at Silver Hart, as well as the work, the earlier stage work at Silverknife and Amy, correct?
Yes, correct. We've already signed drill contracts. We know that the cost is about 5% more this year on the drilling side. And we factored in additional expenses. So we've gone from basically a $300 a meter to about 350. We're pretty comfortable with that estimate. And so we will achieve that with our goal. The drilling, we should accomplish somewhere in the range of 75 to 100 meters a day. So the project should last about 70 to 90 days.
Okay, perfect. And then, just quickly on the kind of the labs, what's your outlook this year compared to last year? Do you think it's going to be a bit better to get timely turnaround there?
No, it'll be similar. I really don't expect to see results of the drilling until early October at best, in November. And that's making it a bit difficult for us. So it's making it difficult for everyone. So what we're going to do is we're going to use XRF technologies, X-ray technologies in the field to give us a good look at the drill core and our soils and things like that. So we're not going to be totally waiting for results, at least internally, on the labs like we have in the past. So that's how we're adjusting to these delays in getting results. I mean, I would have trenched T1 if I knew those soils were coming in like that. And I didn't know until it was too late in the season. So we want to react a lot better by using XRF in the field and counter that a bit. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, perfect. It'd be good for you at least to be able to plan internally kind of what you're doing and know what you have on your hands as you go forward there.
Well, the good thing is the mineralization is going to be visible as well. I mean, you silver, lead, zinc. I mean, it's not like gold. You do see, clearly you see mineralized sections. You know roughly what it is. You just don't know the percentages, and so you know when you're in mineralization in these places. That's a big advantage.
Perfect. So with that, we are out of time. So thank you very much, Kevin, and everybody for joining us.
Thank you to all.